There are a lot of JRPGs that I kinda knew I wasn't gonna like, and I didn't. Others I found them appealing for some reason. I really wanted to like them, but I just couldn't. You already know Resonance of Fate is a good example of that. Anyway, here are 10 more, so let's begin. Number 10, Bravely Default. Bravely Default was the sensation when it came out. Its attempt to create love letters to classic JRPGs, a trend, was achieved. I grew up with some of those, so I was interested in what this game had to offer. I love turn-based RPGs too, so I gave it a shot. However, right from the start, I felt it was kinda generic. Story, characters, and the overall visuals kept me immersed though, and I thought the combat was interesting at first. But little by little, I started losing interest in every single thing. Story kept turning predictable and cliché, similar to its character development. After a while, I just didn't see much point in the combat or its job system, and you know me, I'm not really a fan of job systems, but the battle mechanics were supposed to be the highlight, and they kinda are, except I didn't find them engaging at all, perhaps because I found them too repetitive. I think my biggest problem with this game is that everybody sold it to me as the next ultimate masterpiece. They overhyped it and my expectations flew through the roof. In the end, I was disappointed and bored, so I ditched it after 8 hours or so. Well, I've overhyped several JRPGs in this channel, and I'm sure some of them turned out to be disappointing to you too. Happens to us all. Number 9, Final Fantasy Type 0. Here's my story with this game. Back in my PSP days, when I was playing nothing but PSP JRPGs, I started going into a rabbit hole. One that led me first to obscure games, then fan-translated ROMs, and then only in Japan titles. This game was one of them. For some reason it looked badass, interesting, and with a lot of characters. A weird action RPG that also gave me some dark vibes. But I didn't get to play it because it wasn't fan-translated. Attempts were made, but still nothing concrete. I don't remember if eventually a full translation was finally done, but what I do recall is that I downloaded the ROM, but it was too big. It wouldn't fit my lame-ass memory card. In a bigger memory card, I would have had to delete other games for this one to fit, so I gave up. I still really wanted to play it though, so years went by and a remake was announced. I celebrated. I was happy I will finally get to play it and with better graphics. And so I did, but only to witness my own hype cutting off in an instant. Sure, the intro of the game was dark, bloody, and interesting, but the gameplay itself and the personalities of some characters ruined it for me. Never had I seen such convoluted battle mechanics with frustrating controls. I'm lying, I actually have. But anyway, that's not the point. I never learned how to properly control a single character. Even if I had, I still would have dealt with unsatisfying combat in a game that clearly cared way more about being cool, more than working properly. My conclusion was that this game tried to be way too big for its own good, when it should have been a much simpler spin-off. Give it a try if you can though, maybe you'll love it. Number 8, Luffia and the Fortress of Doom. Before playing any Luffia game, I read online that the second one was actually the first in the chronology, so I tried that one first and I fell in love with it. Amazing game. So I went straight to its sequel afterwards and met the infamous Fortress of Doom. What I found was a generic, boring, yet still somewhat charming adventure. I kept playing, but two things came crashing hard on me not even an hour after starting it. Random encounters were all over the place and the combat mechanics were poor. Its difficulty came directly from a certain shenanigan I've always hated in JRPGs. Some Dragon Quest games are perfect examples of this, so you can't target the enemy you want unless that type of enemy is alone, and if there are two or more, you can only attack them as a group, which means it's out of your control which enemy your characters attack, so often they mess it up bad. I hated this battle system. I did enjoy other JRPGs with a similar one, but because they all had something that I really liked and kept me going. I found absolutely nothing great on Luffia, and it just paled in comparison to its masterful prequel. So I ditched this game, still haven't gone back to it. It's probably a whim. I don't think it's a bad JRPG, so don't worry, I'm not exactly against it. Number 7. Baroque. I get the feeling you've seen me insulting this game before, but you probably didn't know it's cause I really wanted to like it. Dark, gothic, with horror elements, mature stories, some gore, some bizarre stuff, blasphemous religious themes. Man, if that isn't my type of jam, I don't know what is. I found there was a first-person game that never came out of Japan. I didn't care for it. I wanted to care for the remake on PS2 and Wii, the one with third-person control. I read the game spawned mangas, visual novels, spin-offs, and even novellas. It became its own franchise, so I couldn't wait to play it. What I got was a boring, slow, cryptic, troglodyte adventure with bad controls, bad camera, bad combat, bad interface, bad difficulty, randomly generated dungeons, cheap deaths, a roguelike RPG where you go back to level 1 if you die. Baroque disrespects my time. Thank you, Sting Entertainment, for wasting my time! Number 6. Dragon Warrior. Yeah, the first one. I'm not sure why I can't get into most NES JRPGs. I didn't grow up with them because I was playing other genres with my console. I didn't really get into RPGs at all until my early 20s, despite having played a few during my 10s. So I was kinda old when I first tried the legendary Dragon Warrior, the first Dragon Quest ever and the most influential turn-based RPG of all time. What a disappointment it was. I get it, it's a game from 1986, with very primitive ideas that back then were more than revolutionary. Had I played this little adventure within my early days of gaming, perhaps I would have appreciated it more, but I really wanted to like it as an adult. I mean, how can I dislike the godfather of Japanese role-playing games, right? I run a JRPG-focused YouTube channel, for goodness sake. Well, sorry guys, but every time I pick this one up, I'm not even 2 hours into it when I fall asleep. There's barely any story, no party members, just your little silent guy in a grind fest, a big grind fest, with all graphics and outdated interface. I think the same goes for other NES JRPGs like the first Final Fantasy or even Dragon Quest II, but those I didn't even try to like them. All I wanted was to be a fan of the first Dragon Quest ever and failed miserably. Number 5. Drakengard. I think this is the one that hurts me the most in the entire list. You know my taste is in storytelling very well, so dark, incorrect, edgy, bloody, gothic, etc. are the exact elements I crave the most. I also enjoy Musou-style action RPGs every once in a while, so I needed to get my hands on Drakengard and play it. I wasn't that hyped because I knew it had mixed reviews, but I can't deny my expectations were high. What I encountered during my one and only playthrough was a colossal technical disaster with atrocious controls and abysmal camera. Okay, I exaggerated a bit, but camera and controls were bad. Kaim moved and fought like a clay figure almost in slow motion, like he was being really careful with every movement. In other words, combat was so boring, then the dragon fights came along. I didn't hate them, but I found them unnecessary, a chore, an obstacle I had to clear out of my way to get back to my boring, lame-ass hack and slash. Man, what a terrific story I missed out for ditching this technical flop. One of these days I'll just watch all cutscenes, enjoy the endings and move on. I wish there could be an anime series or a movie based on it, cause as a video game it just feels hard to entertain. I really wanted to like it. How about a remaster or a remake, Square Enix? Please? Anyone? Number 4. Saga Frontier. God damn this game! I hate this one, guys. I do because I really wanted to like it. I thought an RPG with 8 different protagonists in some kind of dystopian world was a great idea. but I never got any far with any of them. They were all incredibly cryptic routes with zero clue in what to do or where to go. To date, I still can't believe most of them led me to different areas disguised as dead ends. I didn't try its remaster, but somehow I doubt it fixed these issues and gave some more insight or more info to the players on its purpose. Obviously, I can read a guide for any character I want and complete it, but where's the fun in that? Saga Frontier is some kind of early open world adventure, one where you're supposed to explore until you either trigger a scene or a battle. Still didn't like that concept and ditched it. Years later, I will go on to play and love the remake of Romancing Saga on the PS2. For that game, I also used a walkthrough several times, but at least I knew what to do during the first hours with most characters, unlike Saga Goddamned Frontier! I have nothing more to say about these punks, so let's move on. Number 3, Ni no Kuni. Before playing this game back when it was a PS3 exclusive, I only knew Studio Ghibli had done the art. I didn't know it was held in such a high regard, considered a must-play JRPG on the system, among the best of the best. The first couple of hours were spent in a little town, getting acquainted with the protagonists and reaching that sad early plot twist. So in other words, the game slowly starts building up that tension through anxiety. You just can't wait to really begin the adventure, go out into that fantastic looking world and kill everything in sight. Well, you do with the help of little monsters you recruit and train a la Pokemon. That series, I'm not a fan, never been, tried a bunch of titles, wasn't interesting. I just don't find appealing the idea of capturing cute creatures and forcing them to fight. What's wrong with the creators? It's a horrible idea! It's monster abuse! It's offensive! Someone cancel Game Freak, please! I'm kidding. Fuck cancel culture! Anyway, leaving my pathetic joke aside, if you're done cringing, let me continue. I don't think Ni no Kuni is like Pokemon, in fact, it's quite different. Combat relies on real-time battles. You summon your monsters and they fight out of your direct control. Why can't I control Oliver and his allies to punch those other creatures? I don't know, but I didn't dig this combat or its ideas, so I gave up and didn't come back to it until much later. A time when some dudes convinced me I should give it another chance. So I did, with a different mentality, an open mind if you will. But still I lost all interest again after the first few battles. And story-wise, didn't I tell you during my Drakengard segment what kind of stories I dig the most? Isn't Ni no Kuni the exact opposite of what I described? I wouldn't watch this game even if it was an anime or a movie. I'm not really a Studio Ghibli fan despite the fact that I respect them a lot. I also respect this game, but it's just not for me. Number 2, Earthbound. Earthbound is yet another game I played during my younger days, not knowing it was an all-time classic or whatever. I just thought the title was weird and everything about it was different. That's exactly what attracted me to it in the first place. What kind of Final Fantasy was this? Well, it was no Final Fantasy. It was a story about a little kid with some psychokinetic perks involved, his silly friends in a world full of puns and jokes. However, it also had very simple graphics, slow story progression, and the most generic battle system ever ripped off from any early Dragon Quest game. I didn't like these things, but I didn't mind. If it had a good comedy with an interesting development, I'd probably end up loving it. Well, after a while, I didn't hate it, that's for sure, but I turned the console off and never went back to it. Eventually, people started talking marvels about it. Actually, they felt kinda pissed off because I just didn't like the game. Their insistence, however, pushed me to a point of no return. Nothing made me go back to it, so I decided I will probably have to force myself to like it, just for the sake of those fans. Big mistake. I shouldn't have sat down, control in hand, again trying to find the meaning in playing Earthbound. You guessed it, I couldn't get into it. There is nothing wrong with this game, it's just completely unappealing to me. Most of its jokes, I find them over the top, idiotic, not even worth a jiggle. And while I do think the world building is fascinating, I still find its gameplay unoriginal. I see why people love it so much though, but like many JRPGs in this list, it's just not for me, man. Number 1. The Kingdom Hearts series. I first played Kingdom Hearts 2 and loved it, so I became a fan. Then I played the first one, never beat it, got to Captain Hook, died twice, gave up. So I went on to 358.5 days on the DS. You play as Roxas, I liked him in Kingdom Hearts 2. Never beat it, put 2 hours into it, lost interest, gave up. So I went on to Birth by Sleep on the PSP. I read it's some kind of prequel, you play as 3 different characters, one of them is a good looking girl, I picked her. Never beat it, 2 hours later I was bored, scratched my head, gave up. This time I gave up the series for good. I may have played Chain of Memories on the GBA, but I don't remember much of it. Such a forgettable game, huh? Take no offense though, I tried. I didn't give up right after rage quitting on Kingdom Hearts 1. I really wanted to like the series. I grew up with Disney, even though I wasn't a big fan of most movies. The idea of an action RPG where Donald and Goofy are your party members, and you travel to the settings of Disney movies, and then some of the main characters join as party members. I don't know, it sounded cool, but it just got too old after a while. Plus, the scriptwriter of these games decided to go batshit crazy with the chronology in a poser quest to look dark and edgy. It was just as pathetic as my Pokemon joke. Perhaps even worse. I tried, guys. I seriously gave this series a chance, but nah. I'd rather go back to Dragoneer's freaking area to see if I can enjoy it this time. I doubt I will. I can't think of a better honorable mention than Breath of Fire 5. But I feel like I've explained too many times already why I really wanted to like it and couldn't. You know what? Persona 1 is the exact same case, even its PSP remaster or remake or whatever. Any JRPGs you guys wanted to like and didn't, list them in the comments. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!